Alright, so this is a little bit of a follow-up video on the Korean Pokemon National Championships that happened last week. And if you didn't know, what we talked about last week was the top 4 players were disqualified from the Korean National Championships for playing Metronome. And as a sign of protest, right? Because they were protesting the disqualification of Blue VGC, who was originally going to play in top 4, but then wasn't allowed to play top 4, and Pokemon Korea gave no reason as to why that was. And it's not just like Blue VGC either, because like Korea has had a player disqualified from their top placements for the last like 4 years. So this was kind of an ongoing issue, and then now all the top 4 of the current Korean National Championship decided, hey, let's protest, let's all this use Metronome, let's essentially walk out like finals. And the thing is, like, that's not against the rules. Like, it's not a very high competitive situation, obviously, but they're still playing the match, and Metronome still allows for like a clear winner. So essentially the disqualification by Pokemon Korea in that sense was unjustifiable, to say the least, because like there's nothing against the rules that stops players from this running all Metronome, all Fisher, all Okomus, whatever, right? And they were in a position where they're clearly allowed to, but they were disqualified for being uncompetitive, and in reality because they were protesting a decision. And that's something that's not a great look, to say the least. And there was a lot of pushback on that, right? Like, we talked about this on the last video a bit, like world champions like Eduardo Acuna. There was like Soul Survivor talking about Judy Azzarelli. There's a lot of players coming up against this notion in every scene. Like, the West has been widely against it. We got Sejun Park talked about it too, and how horrible a decision this was. And there's just so many players that was against this choice. Like, Wolf did a giant video on this situation too, which you can watch here. It's all 30 minutes of it, and I'll have that linked in the description as well. But instead of like backing down on something that like the whole competitive scene agrees is a horrible move, right? They kind of doubled down and gave a brand new reason just to make sure these players are gone, right? Which Nash kind of goes over it here. The 4 players will be permanently banned from playing TPCK's official circuit. The 4 day 2 qualifications will not be replaced, which this is something I personally have an issue with. Because that kind of spells out a clear advantage for why Pokemon Korea is so gung-ho about disqualifying these players, right? Because they're essentially saving money off of it, and they're just like, oh yeah, we don't need to go down to like the top 8 players, because there's 4 players under those players, right, who could take up day 2 and represent Korea instead. There's a lot of like other solutions they could have, in spite of like this punishment of the 4 in top 4 who use Metronome, right? But instead, the day 2 spots are just vanished. They're punishing the whole region for what the 4 did, which is a little bizarre. I do expect that the whoever got the day 2 invite instead would probably protest as well, but it still just shows how like spineless this whole choice by Pokemon Korea is, to say the least. And like, we also got a new reason. All players' battle teams include hack Pokemon. All players had an agreement prior to the tour, making it prone to collusion. Which I don't think all players having an agreement prior to the tour matters, because you could agree to use the same team. Is that collusion if you're all using the same team? If you still play the game, right? If you're still playing the game and it's like you're all using the same team, does this really matter? Like, I don't think so. But now they've kind of went to all players' battle teams include hack Pokemon, which is a bit bizarre considering the initial statement kind of just told us like, hey, they're being DQ'd for playing Metronome. So it's a little weird. And it is unfortunate that ultimately the top 4 players in Korea did hack as well. I believe they also did gender Pokemon, so they kind of gave Pokemon Korea an out there, essentially, Like now it's like, oh, this is a justified ban because oh, this had hacked Pokemon, which uh, I don't know. This is tough. It's very tough. And now these players are just permanently gone too, so it escalates even farther than this losing like thousands of dollars, losing a trip to Japan, losing day two. Like, it's just like this an insane doubling down, tripling down, stomping them down, just destroying the Korean circuit just because they can, to put it lightly. But yeah, and Nash says his opinion on it, which is basically the same as mine, because they said in their earlier discussion that, hey, oh, well, this is about the issues on it. Email disqualifying him without telling him why. When he called them to ask why, they refused to answer. And now with all of them being DQ'd, others active causing harm to other participants or giving. If okay. Site in Pokemon Korea Inc. account informing us that all four were disqualified. The reasoning behind it was that we are all locked in Pokemon that learned one specific move. So that was the initial reason, but then after like the pushback online and after like kind of the bad look they got, they were like, hey, actually no, we banned them for hacking as well. Well, which is funny, like even if whether you're against hacking or not, like that's bizarre. That's just a bizarre way to put it. To say the least. Like the initial statement's like, hey, they were banned for metronome, and then a week later, actual statement, hey, haha, they hacked, haha. So that's not, doesn't look too great, it doesn't look too great. And yeah, according to Pokemon Korea, this falls into prohibited acts written below, an act of causing harm to other participants, and specifically in this case, other actions that Nintendo Co. Ltd. And TBC and its subsidiaries deem inappropriate. So essentially, they just deemed everyone running metronome inappropriate, ban. I kind of get it. If you can deem anything inappropriate, like, oh, yeah, the protesting, that's inappropriate, DQ. Sure. It's part of the rules, I guess. But yeah, it's just been a complete mess of this. Unbelievable mess of a situation, and it's not really a situation that we're going to get any better on, because like considering this choice was made, considering the double, the triple, the quadruple down was made, there's like a 0% chance that Pokemon Korea will change, and it sucks. It really sucks. Like, as much of the problems we've had with the circuit in the West, as much of the problems that Japan has had this year, Taiwan's had, like every region in the East has had, and all the problems in like the history of like TPCI in the West too, none of them compare to 4 players getting banned for playing metronome in this whole situation with the Korean National Championship. So yeah, that's like the follow up on this whole stuff, and weird, very weird. This is all very weird. Yeah, Wolf talks about it, Sekai, Pokemon Cast, so a lot of notable Pokemon players. And yeah, hopefully, I hope the best for the Korean players that are playing Day 1 Worlds. And I hope Pokemon Korea will somehow get their situation together. It'll learn to like actually care about the scene, but bad news. I don't think they care. I really don't think they care, and they've shown that they don't care. So, what can you do? What can you do?